What if you could read the private correspondence of a senior demon? C.S. Lewis imagined exactly that in the Screwtape Letters, one of the most brilliant and disturbing books in Christian literature. Written as a series of letters from Screwtape, an experienced devil, to his nephew Wormhood, a junior tempter, this book exposes the strategies Satan uses against ordinary believers. It is satirical, wickedly funny, and terrifyingly insightful. Wormhood has been assigned a patient, an ordinary man who has recently become a Christian. Screwtape's job is to advise his nephew on how to reclaim this soul for our Father below. Every letter contains tactical advice on how to undermine faith, corrupt virtue, and drag the patient toward damnation. Lewis inverts everything. God is the enemy. Hell is our Father's house. Good is dangerous. Evil is business as usual. This inversion forces you to see spiritual warfare from the other side. Screwtape's first piece of advice is crucial. Keep the patient distracted. Do not let him think deeply about anything. Fill his mind with noise, trivialities, and daily anxieties. The most dangerous thing for hell's purposes is a human being who sits quietly and thinks about God. Screwtape says that the safest road to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. The devil's greatest weapon is not dramatic temptation. It is comfortable numbness. Screwtape advises Wormhood to use the patient's church attendance against him. Let him focus on the annoying habits of fellow churchgoers. Let him compare the ideal church in his imagination with the real, flawed church he attends. Let him develop a critical, superior attitude toward other Christians. If the devil cannot keep you out of church, he will make sure you get nothing out of it. Lewis shows how spiritual pride can flourish even in the pew. Screwtape turns his attention to the patient's relationships. With his mother, encourage petty irritations to grow into deep resentments. With his friends, steer him toward people who will weaken his faith. And with a romantic interest, either make him fall for the wrong woman or make him idolize the right one. Lewis shows with devastating accuracy how the devil exploits our closest relationships, turning love into possessiveness, disagreement into bitterness, and intimacy into manipulation. Screwtape makes a startling admission. Hell cannot create pleasures. Only God can do that. The devil can only twist, distort, and misuse the pleasures God has made. Screwtape warns Wormhood that genuine, innocent pleasure is dangerous to their cause. A man who truly enjoys a walk in the countryside, a good book, or a simple meal is closer to God than one who is chasing manufactured thrills. Real pleasure leads to gratitude. Gratitude leads to God. The devil prefers counterfeit pleasures that lead nowhere. When the patient faces suffering, Screwtape sees an opportunity. Use pain to make him angry at God. Use disappointment to make him doubt God's goodness. Use fear to make him abandon faith. But Screwtape also admits a worry. Suffering, if the patient responds rightly, can drive him deeper into God's arms. Suffering has produced more saints than pleasure ever has. The devil must work quickly to poison the patient's response before grace takes hold. Screwtape explains what he calls the law of undulation. Humans experience natural cycles of spiritual highs and lows. The devil's strategy is to exploit the low periods. When the patient feels spiritually dry, whisper that his faith was never real. When prayer feels empty, suggest he give it up. When the Bible seems boring, tell him he has outgrown it. Lewis reveals that these dry periods are not signs of God's absence. They are tests of faith, and the devil knows it. Screwtape discusses the most useful sins for hell's purposes, not the obvious ones like murder or robbery. The most useful sins are spiritual: pride, self-righteousness, and the subtle pleasure of looking down on others. A man who is humble about his humility has achieved a masterpiece of self-deception. Lewis shows that the deepest sins are invisible to the one committing them. The Pharisee who thanks God that he is not like other men is more lost than the tax collector who beats his breast. Screwtape considers spiritual pride the finest weapon in his arsenal. Make the patient proud of his faith. Make him feel superior to less spiritual Christians. Make him take credit for his own growth. Make him believe his theological positions are evidence of his intelligence rather than God's grace. Spiritual pride is the one sin that can grow by feeding on virtue itself. The more good the patient does, the more opportunity for pride. It is the devil's masterwork. As war comes to England, Screwtape faces a problem. Danger clarifies the mind. When bombs are falling, people stop worrying about petty things and start thinking about eternity. Screwtape has always preferred a safe, comfortable, distracted soul to one that is suffering and seeking God. The devil does not want martyrs. Martyrs go straight to the enemy's side. He wants lukewarm, comfortable Christians who drift along without ever making a real commitment. In the final letter, the patient is killed in a bombing raid. Screwtape is furious. The patient dies in a state of grace, and Wormhood has lost his soul forever. Lewis describes the moment of death from the demonic perspective as a catastrophic defeat. The patient sees reality clearly for the first time. He recognizes the demons for what they are: pathetic, disgusting creatures. And he sees Christ, and in seeing Christ, everything else becomes clear. The war is over. Heaven has won. Lewis achieves something extraordinary in the Screwtape Letters. By showing us evil's perspective, he makes us see goodness more clearly. The devil's strategies are not spectacular. They are subtle: distraction, pride, comfortable numbness, petty resentment. The battle for your soul is not fought on dramatic battlefields. It is fought in the quiet moments of ordinary life. Be watchful, be sober. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour.